And welcome to Hannity, and this is a Fox News alert. The influx of illegal immigrants at our southern border has now reached a tipping point. Now, President Obama is going to meet with Texas Governor Rick Perry tomorrow. I will be in Dallas, Texas tomorrow for the first cable one-on-one interview with the governor after that meeting. And then on Thursday, Governor Perry takes me on a tour of the border to help show you, our viewers, just how bad things really have gotten. Now, in just a moment, we'll be joined by former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. She says today it is time to, quote, impeach Barack Obama. But before we bring her in, we turn first to Fox's own Ed Henry, standing by at the White House with the very latest tonight. Ed.
Good evening, Sean. The pressure grew more intense on President Obama today as lawmakers in both parties suggested this border crisis could turn out to be his Katrina, just like the 2005 government response to Hurricane Katrina that ended up crippling George W. Bush for months or even years during his second term. And with the political heat getting turned up on the president, he and his top advisor, Valerie Jarrett, today shook up his schedule for Texas on Wednesday and Thursday, which was just supposed to be about a speech on the economy and 3 fundraisers. Instead, Jarrett now sending a letter to Texas Governor Republican Rick Perry saying the president's willing to have a one-on-one meeting with him about immigration, but also saying that he wants Perry to join him for a roundtable with faith leaders and others to discuss this thorny issue. I pressed White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest today, though, about all the pressure on the president, and Republicans today stepping up their attacks and suggesting the president hasn't handled this well. Listen. How do you react to that there's sort of government just being paralyzed right now, not being able to fix this?
Right. I think the steps that this government has announced, not just today, but over the last week or so, are indicative of our proactive approach to dealing with this situation.
This is President Obama's Katrina. If he's down there with pictures of thousands of children in jail cells designed for, say, 400 people, and you've got 2,000 there, it's not a good image.
Now, President did unveil today a $3.7 billion request for more money from Congress, taxpayer money, to hire more lawyers, immigration judges, try to cut the backlog of cases, potentially deport these adults and children quicker. The problem for the president is he now has some Democrats speaking out. He had a Democratic Congressman of Texas, Henry Cuellar, also saying this could turn out to be the president's Katrina because he was too slow to react. And then the House Democratic Whip Steny Hoyer today said while it may just be a photo op, he thinks it might make sense for the president to go to the border, something the president is still resisting because in the words of Democrat Steny Hoyer, it would show the president is concerned. Sean?
All right, Ed, great reporting. Thank you as always. We turn now to Fox's own Will Carr. He is standing by in Murrieta, California tonight where those protests continue in that town. Will, what's the very latest?
Hi, Sean. Well, we haven't seen any buses come here today, and it appears to be because of the stand that many of these residents have taken against the federal government. Now, while we haven't seen any buses here, we have seen immigrants go into San Diego on a government plane. We're told that there are reports that some have already been processed and released. We've also learned that an already existing detention center 60 miles northeast of Los Angeles announced today it's adding 650 additional beds. At the same time, the Pentagon is being asked by the Obama administration to take on even more immigrants. Now, Murrieta has become the flashpoint in this national crisis, and protesters here say they don't want the immigrants in their community. Immigrant supporters disagree.
They're coming in here, they're coming with lice and scabies and leprosy, I hear, and they're going to bring that to my hometown, and they're going to give it to my little brother, and they're going to give it to my best friend's son? I don't think so.
They should realize that if we continue to have this separation between us, that we're never going to solve anything.
Several hundred people on both sides of the issue showed up yesterday. Today, we've only seen about a dozen. At the same time, we're learning that several Catholic communities in the area are opening their doors to immigrants who have been processed and released already. Last night, one congregation held a meeting and decided helping house the immigrants is what God would want them to do.
The Holy Scriptures say that we're to take care of the orphans and the widows and the aliens. And the orphan is okay, we can agree on that. The widows, we can agree on that. But when it came to the aliens, there was a problem.
And we've learned today that around 75 immigrants will be housed in Catholic churches throughout this surrounding community. Sean.
All right, well, thank you from Murrieta, California tonight. Joining me now at the Hannity Big Board with a disturbing new report about just how dangerous the illegals flooding into the U.S. really are. The co-host of Outnumbered and the news editor for townhall.com, Katie Pavlich, is back with us. We've got reports of health issues.
Yes.
And who's really coming in here?
Right, absolutely. So, Sean, tonight, Border Patrol agents are expressing new concerns tonight after it was confirmed 16 illegal unaccompanied minors who belong to the violent El Salvadorian MS-13 gang are being sheltered in the Nogales Processing Center. Now, according to an agent I spoke to, there are 6 minors who have admitted to committing acts like torture and murder in their home countries before heading north to the United States. The discovery of the gang members came after graffiti was left in the bathroom stalls at the facility, and after a series of questioning, the male teenagers admitted they were in fact members. They were also caught trying to recruit other juveniles in the facility. Now, by U.S. legal standards, many gang members operating in Central American countries and traveling north are classified as minors due to being under the age of 18. However, many young males are actively engaged in violent cartel and criminal activity, yet are treated as children when processed through the Department of Health and Human Services or Department of Homeland Security systems. And according to the FBI, MS-13 regularly targets middle and high school students for recruitment. And according to sources inside the processing center, these MS-13 unaccompanied minors are being held for placement in the United States. Now, another concern that agents have that are on the minds of agents is we've seen, because the agents have been pulled off the border, off of patrol to take care of these kids,
care of the young kids.
Paper. Now the drug runners out in Arizona, flooding over the Arizona border, are running their drugs. We have some photos to show you that were taken over the Hollywood weekend. They've been taken off the field. Here are the photos you can see. These men carrying these very heavy packs. They are operating unabated with impunity, and Border Patrol agents aren't stopping them from flooding their drugs into the United States due to them being in these processing facilities, essentially babysitting and changing bed sheets.
You know, it also contradicts. Yesterday, the government told us that, in fact, all of these people were safe and we had nothing to worry about, and we keep hearing about, children. But in fact, that's not the reality, and we've discovered that's not the case in every case, right?
Well, and we're seeing now that there's a danger with the types of minors who are coming here. MS-13 gang members are minors, and now we're also seeing these dangerous people bringing drugs into the country who aren't being watched by Border Patrol due to their duties being changed to
Katie,
those facilities.
Great reporting. We'll be watching more. Congratulations on your new book as well. And joining us now is the author of an op-ed for Breitbart News that says it's time to impeach President Obama. Joining us now to explain exactly what she meant, Fox News contributor, former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. Governor, good to see you.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks so much.
Why don't we just explain your piece, and then I have a few questions. Explain why you think the time is now, and that do you really want the Republicans to move forward with this?
Yes, it is time. A great awakening is due in this country, and this is the message that will be sent to our president, that he is not an imperial president, and lawlessness will not be accepted by the American people. That's not what he was elected to do, was to create his own laws as he goes along. I think it's time, a little less talk, a lot more action. When we see even GOP lawmakers who are recognizing and proclaiming Obama's violation of the Constitution and then ignoring that Constitution and the power they have to impeach, gets kind of frustrating for the American people. Somebody needs to look out for the working class Americans, and the tipping point in this drive towards impeachment for me has been the illegal immigration issue, the crisis created by Obama, where nobody is looking out for the working class of Americans, including good, hardworking, wonderful legal immigrants. Impeachment is a message that has to be sent to our president, that we're not going to put up with this lawlessness.
Governor, on the issue certainly of the IRS, I agree with you. And for those that don't have the historical reference, that was Article 2 of Richard Nixon's impeachment. And in fact, that was only a threat or the idea to do something that the IRS did. But I want to go specific. When you talk about lawlessness, that means choosing not to enforce immigration laws. That means not enforcing work requirements for welfare. That means unilaterally changing the Obamacare law. In other words, those things that the Republicans have said?
Yes, and it also means lying to the American people, and it means fraud. He has allowed fraud, his subordinates, and he himself, to fraud the American people on these programs, these policies that he has promised will work or will not impact debt or deficit. These have been lies by our president. Yes, those are impeachable offenses. Sean, experts, attorneys, they have a list of at least 25 impeachable offenses. Now, GOP lawmakers know this too. I really want Congress to do its job, the constitutional power that they have, to halt an imperial presidency, to halt this fundamental transformation of America that is making us an unrecognizable mess of a nation at this time.
You know, Governor, liberal and constitutional professor Jonathan Turley said we are at a constitutional tipping point on the very lawlessness that you mentioned. Mark Levin, constitutional scholar, says this is a post-constitutional America. And I think a lot of people, I looked at the poll on Drudge today, whether people agree with you, it was over 70%. Should political considerations come in at all? I interviewed Pat Buchanan today. He thinks that liberalism is now on full display as a failure, and politically it would be a loser for Republicans. Should that matter?
Now, I think politics come into play more when you consider not rocking the boat, if you will, and allowing the liberalism agenda to fail on its own. I think that's kind of a political bent right there. And all due respect to Pat Buchanan, and I do respect his opinion, I disagree with him. I think, keep politics out of this then. This is a bipartisan issue. Americans, Congress, those who are concerned about protecting our Constitution and using the one tool that Congress does have to halt what is going on, this lawlessness coming from the top. The one tool they have are articles of impeachment. Let's get going on that. And it's not necessarily, Sean, a lawsuit being filed by Congress, because you don't bring a lawsuit to a gunfight. And there's no place for lawyers on the front lines. Where are the front lines in America? They are our borders.
Governor, on the issue of lawlessness, I agree with you. I agree with Jonathan Turley, and I agree with Mark Levin, three very bright people. But if you recall, the Republicans wouldn't even stand up. They have constitutional authority, the Republicans in Congress, to defund Obamacare. They could have taken a stand, and they didn't do it. I don't have any confidence that they would even consider this. Do you agree with me that they don't have the political backbone?
That they don't have the cojones to do it, if that's what you mean.
Okay, yeah.
Sean, you're
I was trying to be a little more delicate, Governor, but yeah, that's what I meant.
Not me, man. I go rogue. I'll say what I want to say. Sean, absolutely, man. Bingo, when you say, wait a minute, they had a constitutional tool to unfund Obamacare, and that was just fulfilling all of their campaign promises that they were going to repeal Obamacare, right? Look what happened to the one or two or three good guys like Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, who stood up to fulfill their constitutional duty and their campaign promises. Man, they got thrown under the bus.
They got excoriated.
And the view isn't very good from under the bus. Well, the American people, I believe, are going to say this time, this go around, no, okay, we learned our lesson. And it will be us. We get the government that we support. We get the government, obviously, that we vote for, but that we put up with. How about we don't put up with this lawlessness? Washington is broken. If people care about the future of this country and defense of our republic, they will join this cause of articles of impeachment against Barack Obama, because enough is enough.
Governor, last question. When we spoke last, you talked about you are considering leaving the Republican Party. Where are you on that issue right now?
Been a Republican since I was 18 years old, so wholeheartedly believe in every plank in the platform. The planks in the platform will make this country strong and safe and secure again, Sean. So I hate to think that the Republican Party is going to be leaving me. I don't want to leave it. But if it leaves me, and if it keeps straying towards that liberal failed agenda that the left, that Barack Obama just exudes, then yeah, I'm not going to hesitate to unenlisting myself from a party that I just can't support anymore.
All right, Governor, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And you can see the governor's comments on Breitbart.com. And coming up, protests continue in Murrieta, California tonight against the flocks of illegal immigrants pouring into the U.S. Up next, two people from opposite sides of that showdown. They're going to square off later. Also tonight, a Hannity investigation. Are conservatives being censored by Costco? Reports circulating that Dinesh D'Souza's book was yanked off the shelves of the retail giant, but yet they're still selling Hillary Clinton's book. He's here to respond tonight. That much more as Hannity continues. Straight ahead.